What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rant, no hate. Now, let me jump straight into the video. Um, what I what I want to talk about right now is there's a video that you guys probably know by now. Sean Porter was being interviewed. Him and two other guys was being interviewed, and they were talking about Jermel Charlo's victory. Now, I want to point out some things in that interview that a lot of people probably heard and really just didn't really pay attention to, because these things are pretty much going to come up in the future if certain fights take place. They were asking, who do you see next for Jermel Charlo? And I made a video about that, but I want to, point out something else from the same video. If you notice in the video, they asked Sean Porter about himself going up to 154, possibly going to 154. Does he think that he'd be more powerful basically more powerful at 154 than at 147? And Sean Porter said, yeah, he was talking about that with his dad, and he believed that he would be more powerful. And he asked him about possibly facing Jermel Charlo, and right. So he's with that. Now, if you guys remember, it's like 2 years ago. I think it was the Keith Thurman fight. It was one of those fights. I think it was the Keith Thurman fight. I could be wrong. But one of those fights, I remember Jermel Charlo was being interviewed, and he said he'd fight Sean Porter at 154 if Sean Porter can't get the Thurman fight. I think it was Keith Thurman, something to that effect, like that he would fight him at 154. And I remember people were saying then, oh, why don't Charlo come down to 147? I doubt very seriously that Jermel could actually come down to 147 and fight. I mean, healthy at 147. Making weight and being drained makes no sense. Now, people forget, Sean Porter came down to 147. He was actually bigger than that. Okay, so Sean Porter dropped down to come down to 147. So there's no excuse about, oh, he's a smaller guy. Now, when they asked him about possible opponents, him and the other two guys that was in the room, basically, one of the names came up was Landy Lara. And basically, one of the first things that they talked about in that situation was like Lara's older now. Now, in my mind, when they said that, I'm thinking no. The reason I'm thinking no was for the exact reason that they said. They said, asked him, do they think Jermel would be able to beat him in his prime? And Sean go, oh, no, not in his prime. In his prime, he was slick boxer, could move, could counter punch, everything. Nah. So this is exactly why I'm thinking no. Why have Lara's name on your resume? Anybody can have a legendary name or a great fighter's name on their resume, and then at the end of the day, what's they going to say? Well, Landy Lara was old. He's not the same fighter. In his prime, Jermel couldn't be. This is the kind of stuff that people are going to say and do anyway. They look for those type of things. But I'm thinking that no. Why would he fight Lara now? Because if it's just for namesake to have it on your resume, what does it prove? No. So I remember, and I also remember when Landy Lara fought Jared Hurd, and they were saying the same thing, that Jared Hurd should be fighting light heavyweight. He's too big, man. So it's like, well, I don't think Jared Hurd's power carries over to light heavyweight. I don't think he's as effective. I think he could fight a lesser fighter at light heavyweight and get beat, just because your physical size doesn't always mean that you can fight at that weight. And this is not something that just started. So, it's the term weight bully has been flying around so much. They started, the first person I heard them really going at with it was Errol Spence. Now you start hearing them saying this term now so often now. Everybody's a weight bully. But like people, this has been going on in boxing forever. It's not anything new. I can remember as a little kid going into the gym, they tell you like, no, they want certain fighters to cut weight and go down because what is your most comfortable fighting weight? They don't care about your opponent. They want you to have the advantage of your opponent. Jared Hurd doesn't have that same advantage at light heavyweight. So, his physical size does not mean that he can fight successfully at that weight. Terry Norris was a guy fighting at 154. There's many guys Terry Norris fought. You could clearly see the size difference come fight night when they're in that ring. So your skills can get you over, and also your skills can cause you, your skills can fail you because the guy's just too big and strong. It was an uphill battle for Arislandi Lara, I believe, because Jared Hurd was so much bigger. That's what allowed him to get the victory. Plus, he dropped him in the fight. So, I mean, people, a lot of fights are close. People want to call it controversial or whatever, especially if the favorite loses. And the crowd was definitely, on Lara's side. They kept cheering his name through the whole fight. But at the same time, when you are looking at two fighters and you want to say like, an even playing field, you got to understand, you can't go to a weight division and then the excuse is, oh, he was too big. That's why you see certain fighters, Pernell did it. Pernell Whitaker went up to 154. He fought and beat Julio Cesar Vasquez. He didn't fight Terry Norris at 154. And they asked him, are you going to fight Terry Norris? And Pernell goes, no. Look at the fight. Look at his expression and his reaction when they asked him. He goes, no. Right? And he said, I didn't come here at 154 to stay here. I just wanted another accomplishment. And I can't knock him for that. Now, if he was mouthing, oh yeah, I just beat the best at 154. No, I don't think anybody considered Vasquez the best at 154. He had a title. Terry Norris was the man at 154 at that time. But that wasn't the case. He just went up to get another accomplishment, and he went back down. And that's what fighters do. We've seen Floyd fight a couple of people, a couple of times at 154, to make it comfortable for the person at that division. Whether it was a catch weight or whatever, because Floyd is not a big guy. Even Terry Norris, he usually came in the ring 151, 152. He didn't even come in the ring at the weight limit. So, he was, not big for that division. Now, Lara, for example, now him being older now and not being the same fighter does nothing for Jermel Charlo. And that's the first thing everybody's going to say, like I said earlier, is he was old, he wouldn't have beat him in his prime. And it's like, it makes no sense to me for that reason. Now, the Jared Hurds of the world, Julian Williams, these names are not coming up. Nobody's even talking about a rematch with him in Rosario. Pretty much when it comes to either Charlo, because I believe Jermel can go up to 160 with no problem and be the same fighter. Between either Charlo, Canelo's name already come up. Okay, they both just got through two big hurdles, and so when you say who's next, there's nobody in particular that I'm thinking about. Triple G, Canelo, that's going to be the first two names. Now, mind you, Triple G is what 36, 37 now? So, even for Jermel Charlo, let's say he beats Triple G. That's the first thing they're going to say. Now, they didn't say anything about Triple G's age when he, got the victory. A lot of people feel like he lost the fight to Derevianchenko. Nobody said his age had anything to do with it at that time. Now, when Jermel, if that fight happens, it needs to happen soon. But that's going to be the excuse anyway, should he lose, especially if he really beats him badly. And I believe that he can beat him and will beat him. But that's yet to be seen. Now, I've even hearing people talking about, oh, Jermel should go up and fight Benavidez. When people start telling you, suggesting that a fighter should go up in weight or, go, especially going up, it's because they want to see you lose. And they feel like Benavidez would be too big for him. Errol Spence walks around 175 pounds. Okay, light heavyweight division is 175 pounds. Errol Spence wouldn't be effective at 175 pounds. Not like he is right here. I mean, I wouldn't suggest he go fight Benavidez at 175. Just because he could walk around at 175 doesn't mean that that fight weight would be good for him. So, when people say these things, they got to understand, like, if you're talking logic and reason, I'm 250 pounds. Imagine me trying to go down to cruiserweight. I'd be so fucking drained. Yeah, I'd be ripped and muscular and all of that, but I'd be so drained at 170, trying to fight at 185 pounds. What would be the purpose? Okay? What would be the purpose? There's no such thing as a super heavyweight division, right? So imagine me going in there beating up a guy 220 pounds and people going, oh, he's a weight boy. No, motherfucker, this is my size. I'm a big dude. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Okay, let me come down to about 220 to make it even, or try to give him a better chance. No, that's the thing that makes, I don't have to cut weight at all. I can, anyway, just making a point. Sugar Ray Leonard, a lot of people don't remember this. He went up to 160 and fought. They said, he came to 160 for the first. No, he didn't come. He fought at 160 before he fought Marvin Hagler. And he did it. And years later, he admitted why he did it. He wanted to see it, which was common sense. He did it to see how he would fare at 160. And he said, I was hit this guy with everything. And like, this guy just wouldn't go down. It's like, man, so he didn't have the same effect on this guy. So it's like, he realized, no, 147 is where he should be. And he goes back to 147. Sugar Ray Leonard probably walks around, back in the day, he probably walked around, 160 or close to it. So, that doesn't mean it was a comfortable fight weight for him. And as you get older, your body starts to fill out more. You start to grow more. That's why you have to work harder to cut weight as you get older, because your body starts to fill out. You start to gain more weight just naturally. But as a comfortable fight weight, no. So imagine, that's like what Manny Pacquiao coming up from 130. Imagine him trying to go to 154, 160 just to prove what? So when I heard remember the rumors a couple of months ago about Pacquiao was supposed to be fighting Golovkin, and I'm like, why in the hell would Pacquiao go and put himself in a body bag? What would be the purpose? His style is energetic. He's on his toes, constantly hopping around, and he has to get in, get out. And it would not be the same. Now, why can a technical boxer pull that off? Is because they have the skills to not take those big shots, get in, get out. Whereas a guy like Pacquiao is energetic. Try to hop around with 160 pounds on you, coming from a 147, and his body, there's no excuse about his size. His body, he's a welterweight now. He's been a welterweight, but to go up to 160, now don't get me wrong. If he went up there and let's say his power could carry over and he could dance around for 12 rounds, how he do hopping around it, which I just can't picture that. I would have to see it to believe that. That's too much weight. It's different, and people don't understand that. You can't just go up to a weight class, jump up 2 or 3 weight classes, and I can move it. It doesn't do the same thing. It's not the same thing. So that would be asking. That would be unrealistic for somebody to suggest that. And not just him. Anybody coming up from 130 naturally, 130, 126, 130, 135 to go all the way up to 160. And if you can carry that, look. How tall was Thomas Hearns? 6'1", 6'2"? They had him listed at 6'2" sometimes 6'1". He fought Aaron Pryor, in the amateurs at 135. So imagine, he's 6'1", 6'2", fighting only when he, as a pro, at 147. Nobody called him a weight bully. Thomas Hearns' back is wide. He was skinny. He was a skinny guy. But as his body started growing, you seen him went to 160. He went to 154, went to 160. Why? Because it's harder to cut weight. And he could have fought at a bigger weight than that. Of course he could have. But once he went to middleweight, one of the things everybody always talk about with Hearns is how hard he can punch. Look at how many clean shots he hit Marvin Hagler with. And we know Marv can take a punch, yeah, but regardless, look at all the clean shots he hit Marv with. And he couldn't even move Marvin Hagler. Cut him, but couldn't even move him. Wasn't phasing Marvin Hagler. Marv kept coming forward. He was eating those shots. And anybody he fought going up from 160 all the way up to cruiserweight, he never looked like the same fighter. And it's not because he couldn't fight. And I tell people, don't start this shit about, yeah, I agree. His better performances was at 147, but don't start this shit about, oh, he was old. No, it's like when it comes to certain legendary fighters, people try to give them their best years as a timetable to say, oh, nobody could beat them at this stage in their career, or nobody could do this or that, whatever. Okay, which is bullshit because he did lose in his prime. He lost to Sugar Ray in his prime. He lost to Marvin Hagler in his prime. You chose to go up to those weight classes though, so you can't go to a weight class. And even if the fans are making excuses, if you win, you don't make an excuse, even if you don't stay. But if you lose, you can't go up and say, oh well, this guy's bigger than me. And mind you, he stayed at 160. Marvin Hagler, Hearns went all the way up to cruiserweight. And at the end of the day, I don't see Jermel a reason for him to abandon his belts just to go up to another weight class to make a fight happen. I don't like when fighters meet at a catch weight. Really, I understand it. Put it like this: if both fighters can do it effectively and neither fighter is drained by it, then fine. Canelo was doing that shit, and so was Miguel Cotto. You're the middleweight champion of the world, but you're fighting at a catchweight. Like, no, man, you beat Martinez. Why are you fighting everybody else at catchweight? So all of that, and a lot of times it's to try to drain the other fighter. With guys who just can't make that weight, they make a catchweight because it's like to try to bulk up and have the physical size, but not the power that come with it. Fight fans, even if they hear these things, they don't know it from experience. So they're just talking rubbish based on what they think. But it's not easy. And also, I remember when people was talking about Jarrett Hurd, like, oh, he would destroy the Charlos. He would do this, he would do that. We know what happened with him and Julian Williams, right? And we also know what happened with J-Rock and the Charlos, right? So, so we know that you can want someone to lose or assume someone is better than someone, but when they get in there, what they bring to the table that night, that's all that matters. It does not matter what you did last fight. If you have those same things, you still have those same tools to work with, yeah. But you always got to think every fight is different. And for me, understand, I don't watch just boxing. I don't participate in just boxing. So you understand, you start to look at at least for myself, you start looking at things from a whole different perspective. Because if you just like, for example, as a boxer, if you want to fight an MMA guy, or let's say you get into a street fight with somebody who's well-rounded, you want to know how to defend yourself. Elbows, knees, you understand what I'm saying? Kicks, ground, your ground attack. So I started studying a whole lot of shit, and I started training to do everything, because you never know when you're going to get in that scrap. So it's like, yeah. So you start to understand everything. You start to see things from a different perspective than just boxing. And one thing I can tell you is when you're trying to cut weight and fight at a particular weight, and then it's like, for example, if a fighter comes into a ring, right? Now let's just say he weighs in, at the weigh-in, he's 225. But let's say fight night, this motherfucker's 245. He don't need to go back down to 225. It's too much weight. And that's one thing. People look at muscularity and, oh, no, he was fit. Yeah, but he was drained. So I don't know who's next for either Charlo. Now for Jermel, definitely Canelo. I would rather see him fight. And Canelo's going through a legal thing right now, so we don't know when the next time or how soon, because he's going to be in the ring. You don't need those distractions. I would honestly rather see Jermel fight Golovkin first. Because, like I said, Golovkin's already like 37, 38. And at some point, they're going to try to they're going to try to take credit from Jermel anyway. And it's going to be an age thing. They also brought up Hurd Lubin. Well, that's another no-no for Jermel. Because when Jermel beat Erickson Lubin the first time, pow, first round, got him out of there. What did everybody say though? He was undersized. You chose to go to that weight division. And now Erickson Lubin is saying, oh, a rematch would be different. He beat Jermel this time. Listen, that's yet to be seen. But at the same time, he beats Erickson Lubin again, and I believe he will. But if he beats him again, it's the same thing. Or he's fighting the little guys. Oh, he's no. You came up to that weight class. We saw Mayweather go up all the way up to 154. We've seen Shane Mosley come up and go up all the way to 154. We've seen Manny Pacquiao go all the way up to 147. All of these guys went higher than what the weight class that they started at. Okay, and Mayweather the same thing. How many times have we seen Mayweather fight a guy and he looks so much smaller than that guy? You know, even when he fought Conor McGregor, people could say what they want, but that motherfucker was 30 fucking pounds heavier than Floyd Mayweather. So yeah, you got your ass kicked by somebody that was 30 pounds smaller, but nobody brought that up. They just, oh, but Conor's not a boxer. So fucking what? He's a combat sports fighter, and basically he thought he could beat him because he was smaller. So Ray Robinson, forgot who he fought, man. There's a light heavyweight. I forget his name, but anyway, under the lights, they said, oh, it was so hot. Ray Robinson was, under the lights, and I'm like, man, listen. Ray should have been smarter than that, man. He's trying to knock this guy out with every punch, and the guy's not budging. Use your boxing skills, man. Fuck it. I'll take the 15-round decision. You trying to take the guy out. He got so exhausted, they stopped the fight in the 13th round. He couldn't go anymore. He was winning the fight, but he was so exhausted, and it's like you could see, even when he was going to his corner, how he was exhausted, trying to fight a bigger guy. And the thing about that was he didn't even go to 175. He was 160, fighting the guy 175. So, people talk that gladiator shit, but like, you got to use your head, man. You got to use your brains. You can't fight. You can't go and fight anyone. Okay, you have a brain just like that other person. You can't go fight someone. Don't fight to the best of your. Don't use your strengths. And against this guy, his strength was quickness and movement. And his boxing skills. He was outboxing the guy with no problem. But the guy was eating the shots. And the guy just kept coming forward. And you realize I'm getting tired, I'm getting exhausted, and I can't knock this dude. Pace yourself, man. Fight differently. Now the thing is, like my pop said, it was like, hey man, what it was that's all he knew how to do at the time. And that's when we use the term switch hitter. When someone, hey, you know what? Okay, he's not falling, no problem. Now I'm going into boxing mode. But at the same time, you can't, the guy was too big. You took the fight. When Amir Khan went up and fought Canelo Alvarez, he talked real confident, talked real cocky. He got knocked out, just like most people figured he would. We don't want to hear, oh man, I went up and fought a bigger guy. And okay, well, hey, you knew the risk. Same thing when Kell Brook went up and fought Golovkin. Yeah, he was outboxing Golovkin. Yeah, he was holding his own. And you know what? You also know there's a risk. Not only are you fighting the bigger guy, you fighting the bigger guy that can punch, and he's going to bring that pressure to you. And pretty much, if you don't have the skills to pay the bills, where you are switch hitting, can change up and or just have the defense, the talent to be able to negate what he's doing, then no excuse. You chose to go up. Simple as that. Okay, what if Gennady would have went down and still won? Or what if he'd have went down and lost and said I was drained? Does anybody want to hear that? So either way, you chose to go fight that guy. So when I did the video and said who's next for Jermel Charlo, I'm really thinking like, damn, who is next? Who is next? Now, Sean Porter never said he's definitely going to 154. He just said it was something he talked about with his dad, and he's thinking about it. But even if that happened, who knows? I think it's too much going on. It's too much at 147 that can happen. Sean still, he fought Keith Thurman, he lost. He fought y'all know what I'm talking about, man. I'm losing my train of thought here, man. Garcia. Um, and you know, he won. But at the same time, I mean, Keith Thurman fought, you know, Keith Thurman beat Sean Porter. And Keith Thurman beat Danny Garcia. Sean Porter, on the other hand, what I'm saying, there's more fights. You got the Errol Spencers, you got the Chance Crawfords, and you didn't get Keith Thurman and Terrence Crawford. You didn't get Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. You didn't get Errol Spence and Keith Thurman. You didn't get Sean. You got Sean Porter, and that's what I was thinking about. You got Sean Porter and Errol Spence, but you know there's still some fights there, you know. So I don't really think, who knows, but me looking at it from my standpoint, from the outside looking in, I would think before he goes up, he would want to fight those other guys first. You know, I would think he would want to fight those other guys first, because now, win, lose, or draw, before you go up to the next division, there's nobody that you didn't fight that was, you know, at the top. You fought all the elite fighters at that division. As far as just walking away, okay, he goes up and fights. Let's say he goes up to 154. Then who do you really want to see Sean Porter fight at 154? Do you want to see him and Hurd Lubin? That would probably be the fight that would happen. I could see that fight happening if he went up to 154 first. I don't see him going up and then all of a sudden it's just him and Jermel. I mean, it could happen, but I don't know. I don't feel like that's the move right now. So who does he fight? Does he fight Jarrett Hurd? Does he fight J-Rock? You know, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't see Jermel going up to 160 because his brother's there. Okay? You know, I don't see him going down in weight. I see him staying at 154. You know, it's like somebody was talking about, oh, Errol Spence should go up to 150. He's not going to go to 154 because, you know, him and Jermel are close, man. And at some point, they're going to have to cross paths. And it's like, unless they're both willing to do it, then hey, but I don't really think they want to fight each other. That's something I don't see that happening. You know, it'd be like fighting your cousin, man. Like, nah, you know. At the end of the day, there's still fights that's out there. There's people who, you know, we might not really look at as worthy opponents, but you never know. It's always the more popular names. But anyway, just pointing those things out, man, because when people say that these guys are too big for certain divisions, or that, you got to understand, sometimes people drain themselves. You know, I got another video that I'm going to do. I'm going to upload this one first, and then I'm jumping right back into it. So I'll get with y'all in a minute. Remember, never fall in love with lies. And the truth brings hate out of people. Catch y'all on the next one.